So, then let's start. We're doing it every day. It's really a small thing what we are doing. If someone is saying something funny, we are doing it. It's smiling. Smiling is a very important thing for all of us, because smiling does not only is important for ourselves, for you. It's change your mood every day. It's change as well the mood of the people opposite of you. Smiling does not just improve your personal health and well-being, but also impact those around you. And not everyone can smile because of different reasons. Because of accidents, they are not very healthy teeth, or some other reason. Therefore, I'm welcoming you to the webinar for tonight. The agenda for the next 1.5 hours will be like the following. My part will be the history of edelweiss. Then we will hand it over to Claudio Novelli. He is in Milan in the Edelweiss Smile Center. After Claudio, we will hand it over to Stefan. He is in the Edelweiss Smile Center in Austria. And then we will make a small conclusion, answer in questions. The Edelweiss mission itself is to bring back what was given once. Because we know, and you know, there are different kind of reasons outside why people are losing their smile. Because they are eventually don't feel comfortable. They have got accidents or oral health problems. And the mission of Stefan was always give the patient the smile back, because that's very important for all of us. And a long-lasting material. All of us know there are a lot of different kind of products on the market. The idea of Edelweiss, when Stefan started the Edelweiss system, was to be unique on the market. And the unique, especially for you, all our products are patented because of the manufacturing process. But Stefan and Claudia will go later on in the manufacturing process deeper. The idea was as well to be less invasive, because why should we destroy healthy teeth to make a smile for your patient, for our patient? And the last thing was as well to provide affordable solution for everyone outside on the market. The Edelweiss dentistry history, when Stefan started his business in 2010, Stefan combines two worlds. The one world is he has got a degree in dentistry and he has got a degree in technician. So he combines both worlds. We opened our doors in 2010. The first document case was in 2008. So our experience is now over 13 years. In the beginning, we started with our veneers for maxilla and mandibular. And then in 2014, we invented the occlusions. In 2017, we invented the post and core. And one of my favorite things is 2018, the pediatric crown, because the idea behind the pediatric crown was why we are treating the adults with less invasive and affordable solution, why we should not treat our children with that. That's our next future. And our latest innovation are the CAD/CAM blocks in 2021. Today, we will talk about the veneers, occlusions, and the pediatric crowns. The Edelweiss headquarters, we are based on the Lake of Constance. On the left hand, you will see Switzerland. On the right side, you will see Germany, and we are placed in the middle. Important thing is of the Lake of Constance, they combine three countries. And the lake itself has got this stage. So we are always welcoming you to our place to combine leisure and education. Of course, after pandemic. Our headquarters is the important thing is to say about our headquarters is the first floor, because at the first floor we have got 4 dental chairs, and with us working 4 different dentists together with Stefan. Because before we go outside into the market, we are testing it in our dentistry, how we can handle those products and how the dentist can handle that product. We've got a seminar room about over 100 square meters. We are making basic workshop, master classes, live clinical cases. So you're always welcome to visit us and to visit one of those educations and workshops. The edelweiss team itself has got over 35 employees. The core team is in Austria, and we have got around the world a few other employees. They are working for edelweiss and supporting our partners. What we are proud as well are our key opinion leaders. They are around the world, from Italy, Macedonia, South Africa, Brazil, and Serbia. Because we always, when Stefan invent new product, we are always spreading our idea out to our key opinion leaders. And they bring that back, their experience and their knowledge into that product. That everyone on the world we know has got different needs. And so we combine all worlds together. Edelweiss around the world, we are selling our product over 78 countries. We've got 66 distribution partners. What you will learn about the lecture from Claudio, it's like just short information. From the direct to the indirect restoration, the application and indication of edelweiss veneers, occlusions, and pediatric crown, and the treatment concept, how the treatment concept is built by us. What you will learn about the clinical patient, what Stefan will talk about it, is how to bring the treatment concept to the dental chair, how you can transfer that information, really the step-by-step on a dental chair, and the preparation of the tooth and adjustments. That was for now, was that my part for the edelweiss history. For you, lean back and enjoy the show with Claudio and with Stefan, because in the follow-up, you will get a download link for the webinar, so you can always review the information and the tips and tricks what you get from us. Therefore, I'm hanging over to Claudio in Milan. So Claudio, your part.
Welcome to everybody attending this Edelweiss online event. And a special welcome to everybody who's watching from distant time zone, Far East or Far West. And in the next 40 minutes of this presentation, I'm going to show you the Edelweiss Direct System, veneers, occlusion, and pediatric crowns. These are Edelweiss restoration for anterior teeth, posterior teeth, and pediatric dentition. They are presented together because they share the same concept of prefabricated laser sinter composite restoration for treatment in a single appointment. However, veneers, occlusion, and pedo crowns were introduced on the market in different times. Veneer was the first product to be in launch in 2010. That's where everything started from. Then occlusion VD was introduced in 2014, a few years later, and finally pedo crown in 2018. So I will follow the same chronological order in my presentation and show you veneer first, then occlusion, and then the pedo crowns. So let's start with Edelweiss veneers and how to create a beautiful smile in a single appointment. Today you will see how you can go from A to B in a single visit. You don't need impression, you don't need temporaries, you don't need back and forth with the laboratory trying appointment. This is the smile of the patient as she enters the dental office, and this is the smile of the patient as she leaves the dental office the very same day. And the single appointment technique means reduced chair time and consequently reduced cost, aesthetic dentistry that is affordable to a larger number of people, but also means a reduced number of clinical steps and consequently reduce possible complications, things that could go wrong, like the pressure is not good, temporaries comes off, or the restoration are not from the laboratory are not what you were expecting or the patient was expecting, and you have to redo it. And these are things that could happen and make our life more complicated and more stressful, especially if you're working on a tight schedule. So with a single appointment technique, forget that. The single appointment technique is going to make your life easier. You're still doing your job very well and produce highly aesthetic restorations and beautiful smiles for your patients, but easier and faster. Because you know what? Contemporary aesthetic dentistry doesn't have to be technically demanding and time consuming. And if you have a patient like this and everybody can tell she needs to have a better smile, what you do is step number one, prepare for minimal invasive veneer preparation, then select edelweiss veneers of the proper size and bond it with the nano hybrid composite that's included in the kit. That's it. It's 1, 2, 3. And this is the patient as she sits on the dental chair, and this is the patient as she leaves the dental chair the same day. Again, this is how she sits on the dental chair. This is how she leaves the dental chair. This is how she sits on the dental chair. This is how she leaves the dental chair. And this is quite a big change for a single visit. And believe me, this is a change that every patient will like, because no one really likes to come to the dental office too many times. Now, all this is possible because Edelweiss Veneer introduced a new concept for aesthetic restoration. This is different from your conventional aesthetic restorative technique. Your conventional aesthetic restorative techniques are either the indirect technique, and that's usually ceramic, or the direct technique, and that's usually composite. Now, both techniques can serve very well for aesthetic restorations, but they both have limitations. They are not the perfect aesthetic restoration. For example, indirect technique, ceramic, highly aesthetic, very durable, but also complicated clinical procedure, invasive tooth preparation, expensive restoration, doesn't allow intraoral repair. If something goes wrong, you cannot fix it. You have to redo the restoration and sometimes redo the case. On the other side, the direct technique is quick, takes a single appointment, reduced number of clinical steps, minimal invasive, possible intraoral repair, and this is all good, but also provides limited durability and limited strength. So these are your conventional treatment options for restoration in a smile frame. Now, Edelweiss Veneer introduced a new treatment option, and this new treatment option goes right here in the middle and bridge the gap between the conventional indirect technique and the conventional direct technique. This is a new concept of indirect/direct restoration that combines the best of both worlds. From the word of indirect restoration, it takes the beauty and the strength of a pre-shape and pre-polished restoration, like the restoration that laboratory fabricates for you. Edelweiss veneers have ideal shape, proper size, accurate anatomy, glossy surface. You don't have to do any shaping, any polishing, because it was already made for you. And from the word of direct restoration, it takes the convenience of a single appointment with minimal invasive tooth preparation and possible intraoral repair. So just like a direct composite restoration, Edelweiss veneer takes a single appointment with limited number of clinical steps, reduced chair time, reduced possible complications. So this is what Edelweiss veneers are, a new concept of direct-indirect restoration that combines the best of both worlds. Now, this is an innovative concept, but it's not totally new in dental history. And somebody probably remembers this product from the late 70s. It was called Mastique and was distributed by Kalk Dentsply. And Mastique was prefabricated acrylic veneers, and they were available in different shapes and size for direct bonding to the deserving tooth with composite and a special acrylic primer agent. And now this was the late 70s. It was prehistory of aesthetic dentistry, and mastic acrylic veneers were like dental dinosaurs compared to contemporary veneer technology. However, mastic must be given credit for introducing for the very first time this new concept of prefabricated veneer for immediate aesthetic dentistry that you do in a single appointment. And this is the same concept that was introduced in 2010 by Edelweiss Dentistry with Edelweiss veneers, however, with a much more advanced state-of-the-art composite technology and laser sintering technology. And this is what I want to show you now. I want to show you the technology that's involved in the fabrication of Edelweiss veneers, how Edelweiss veneers are fabricated. And this is where everything starts from. This is the composite that Edelweiss veneers are made with. It's a homogeneous nanofill composite. And the fabrication of Edelweiss veneers starts from a small ingot of this homogeneous nanofill composite. And first, the ingot is heated at 300 degrees. And when composite reaches temperature, it becomes very, very fluid. And now it's pressed into the mold under 100 bars pressure and finally cured. So it's a heat and pressure process. And as a matter of fact, a lot of heat and a lot of pressure. And the addition of heat increases monomer conversion. So this is a fully polymerized composite, stronger and more color stable. And the addition of pressure increases density, condensate the filler particles, and eliminates the resin. So because of the low resin content and the high filler density, all the mechanical properties are remarkably improved compared to conventional composite restoration. So superficial hardness is twice the superficial hardness of a conventional composite, and flexural strength is twice the flexural strength, and compressive strength is almost 3 times the compressive strength of a conventional composite. So this is a very strong composite restoration. It's much stronger than a conventional composite, especially direct composite. But it's not only the mechanical properties, it's also physical properties improve. For example, Edelweiss veneers are not sensitive to thermal stress. They do not shrink and expand with hot and cold every time the patient eats or drinks something hot and cold. And as you can imagine, this has a major positive impact on resistance to aging and marginal integrity of the veneer restoration. So once the curing process is completed, the veneer cools for half an hour because it was 300 degrees, and then laser sintering starts. Edelweiss veneers are processed with a sintering laser that goes back and forth on the surface of the veneer. The laser beam goes through the entire thickness of the veneer and bounces back. So it's actually a double sintering, and the sintering laser evaporates the resin and melts the filler. So what you have here now is a 100% inorganic composite restoration melted filler. And laser sintering also vitrifies the composite and produces the glossy surface that you see on top of Edelweiss veneer. This high gloss surface, this is no mechanical polishing. There is actually no mechanical polishing whatsoever in the fabrication process of Edelweiss veneer. This is laser sintering, and it's very similar to ceramic glazing. And just like ceramic glazing, laser sintering makes this Edelweiss veneer not only more glossy and shiny, but also more durable than a conventional composite because it's no resin on the surface, and this prevents Edelweiss veneers from aging and staining like a conventional composite restoration. So this is how Edelweiss veneers are made. As you can see, this is not a piece of composite cured in a mold with a shape of veneer. This is very advanced, state-of-the-art composite technology and laser sintering technology. And this technology produces a highly aesthetic restoration with remarkably improved mechanical and physical properties compared to a conventional composite restoration. But And this is also a pre-cure composite. So you don't have the limitation of intraoral composite curing like incomplete monomer conversion or polymerization shrinkage. But at the end, this is still composite. It feels like composite, it cuts like composite, and it has all the good things of a composite restoration, like it's minimal invasive, single appointment, user-friendly. Use edelweiss veneer like you were doing a direct composite restoration. You don't need special equipment, you don't need special material. Everything you need for the procedure, you'll find it in the edelweiss toolbox, the white box. In the toolbox, you have the kits with the veneers, upper and lower veneers, and the lower veneers are available in two sizes, small and medium, from second bicuspid to second bicuspid. And the upper veneers are available in four sizes, again, from second bicuspid to second bicuspid. And inside the toolbox, you also have the veneer bond. Veneer bond is a resin primer that you have to use inside edelweiss veneer to allow composite to bond to edelweiss veneers. And you also have edelweiss nanohybrid composite for cementation of edelweiss veneer. And this composite is available in several dentine and enamel shades. And inside the toolbox, you also have the effect shades for color characterization of the veneers. And this is an optional step, but it definitely adds an extra aesthetic twist to your veneers. And effect shades are available as effect blue and effect eyes. Effect eyes, it's a white tint that you can use to create white spots, white crease line, or to highlight a gray-blue translucency in the incisal edge. And effect blue, it's a very special material. This is not a blue tint. A blue tint, it's an opaque material with some extra blue stain. This is an opalescent composite. It means that because of its chemical composition, has the same behavior as natural enamel. That means that reflects the short light waves and let the long light waves to pass through. And because of this light dynamic properties, it gives a very soft and natural effect. You just paint it where you want to see the effect and add a thicker layer if you want to have a more intense effect, or a thinner layer if you want to have a more subtle effect. So this is the toolbox that includes everything you need for the procedure. Now, I have been using the toolbox since 2011 actually, when edelweiss veneers were introduced on my market, Italy. So I have been using this technique since 10 years. And now after 10 years, and in many cases I've done, I know the technique very well. But when I started, this was a new technique for me, and I didn't know exactly how to use it. Like that, should I use it like a direct composite? Should I use it like an indirect ceramic? Now, when you have a new technique and you have to learn how to do it, what do? You do it for friends and family. And this is what I did. This was my friend Valeria, and Valeria, she was one of my very first edelweiss veneer patients. And Valeria, she had small laterals. They're also a little bit rotated, so they look even smaller from frontal view. And she always wanted me to do veneers for her. And this is a perfect case for veneers. But I was never doing this veneer. I was just delaying the case because I didn't want to prepare these teeth. Even if it's minimally invasive veneer preparation, she's young and these teeth are totally healthy. So I don't see why they should be prepared. So she must have been thinking that I didn't want to do her veneers. I just didn't have a good technique. And however, when the first edelweiss toolbox arrived in the office, I thought, well, maybe this is a technique for Valeria. If I could only make this edelweiss veneer thin enough to bond it to her laterals with no tooth preparation. Now, as a general rule, composite veneer can be made thinner than a ceramic veneer because the material is less brittle and less fragile. And edelweiss veneers are very thin. They are fabricated with an average thickness of about 0.5 millimeters. But you can make them even thinner if you like. And this is what I did for her. I took a diamond burr and I started grinding the veneer inside to make it thinner. And this is how thin the veneer was, 0.18. Now, 0.18 is less than 2/10 of a millimeter. This is super thin. And the good thing with a veneer so thin is that you don't need to prepare the tooth. You can bond it with no tooth preparation because it really adds no extra thickness to the tooth. And so this is what I did for Valeria, and I'm not going to show you the step by step because you will see with the case from Stefan later. But this, what I want to show you, the lateral incisors now with edelweiss veneer bonded with no tooth preparation. So these are her lateral incisor, and this is Valeria now with her new smile, and I think she looks good. And I think that this is good aesthetic dentistry. It's very simple, it's very minimal invasive, and boy, it's quick. I mean, it took me half an hour to do this veneer. There is no anesthesia, no tooth preparation, and I don't really think you can make high quality aesthetic dentistry much faster than this. And this case was made in 2011, so I have all the clinical records from 2011 until now. And this was the first recall appointment for the veneers at 2 years. This was the second recall appointment at 4 years. And this was the third recall appointment at 6 years. And as you can see, at 6 years, they still look very good. There is no chipping, no debonding, still very glossy and shiny. Margins, they show no leakage, no staining. These are invisible margins. You don't see where the veneer ends and where the tooth starts. And the other thing I want you to look at is the nice blending. They blend very well with the natural dentition. They look very natural because this composite mimics the optical properties of a natural enamel. It's same light reflection, same translucency, same fluorescence, and this is why they look very natural, and also why shade matching is much easier than with ceramic. And if you have ever done a single anterior unit with ceramic, you know what I'm saying. So this was the 8-year recall, and this is the last picture I have of Valeria at her wedding in January 2020 in Rome. So Valeria, she looked very good with her veneers, so her friend Erica, she asked me to do veneers for her. And Erica, she's peg laterals. But she's also not too happy with the central incisors, so we decided to do 4 edelweiss veneers for her on the 4 incisors. This is Erica, the day of the veneer, the before and after picture, the same day. And Erica, she was very happy with her veneers. And a few months after doing the veneers, also Erica got married. So there's like a trend. They do the veneers and then they get married. I'm not sure this is a good thing, but I just report it as it is. So anyway, this is how I start the technique. Like every new technique, I like to start with small and easy cases, and when I'm more comfortable, I know the technique better, I'm ready to move to bigger and more advanced cases. Like Francesco was a complete smile makeover made with edelweiss veneers, both upper and lowers, to restore the worn dentition. And this was Donna, another complete smile makeover made with edelweiss veneer because of missing lateral and some malpositioning on the bicuspids. And this was Lucia. Lucia was another complete smile makeover made with edelweiss veneer because of anterior spacings. And edelweiss veneers are available from second bicuspid to second bicuspid, so you can restore the full arch and make a complete smile makeover with this technique in a single appointment. And complete smile makeover is one of my favorite application of edelweiss veneers because what I used to do with conventional indirect technique and laboratory fabricated restoration, now I can do it in a single appointment with less chair time, less clinical steps, less possible complications. And I have complete control on my smile. I don't depend on the communication with the laboratory for my final aesthetic outcome. And I mean, don't get me misunderstood. I've always been very lucky with dental technician, always been working with a very fine dental technician, but even the finest dental technician doesn't have the patient, doesn't have the head, the face, the lips. So it's very difficult to create a smile that fits a patient if you don't have the patient there. So complete smile makeover is one of my favorite applications, but it's not the only possible application of this technique. As a matter of fact, this is a very flexible restoration that you can use for a lot of possible applications, from peg lateral, rotated teeth, change of shape, change of size, anterior restoration, you name it. You can use it for young patient or senior patient. This was a young patient, 9 years old girl with amelogenesis imperfecta, and I used edelweiss veneers, no prep, to restore the hypoplastic enamel on the lower incisors. And this case is going to be published this summer on Dentistry Journal. There is an upcoming issue dedicated to pediatric dentistry. And so this was a young patient. This was a senior patient where I used edelweiss long veneers to restore the gingival recession. Edelweiss long veneer is a new version of edelweiss veneer for periodontal patients. And if you want to know more about edelweiss long veneers, this case was published this winter on Clinical Case Report. And periodontal patient is another of my favorite application of the technique. And I think that edelweiss veneers, especially edelweiss long veneers, is the perfect restoration for periodontal patients. And if you want to know why, well, you can register to this upcoming edelweiss event in June. This is dedicated to edelweiss veneer and aesthetic restoration of periodontal patients. This was another patient, Maria, where I used edelweiss additional veneers to close anterior spacings. This was a case of discolored teeth. This was Alessandra. Alessandra was a case of direct composite veneers. She had direct composite veneers made on her front teeth a few years ago, and now these direct composite veneers are discolored, they look dull, some of them cheap, the margins are staining, but she wants to redo the composite. She's not ready for ceramic. And I say, that's fine, but I'll do better composite. I'll do edelweiss veneers for you. So I made 6 edelweiss veneers for Alessandra from canine to canine, and I think she looks very good. And this is still single appointment, minimal invasive, not too expensive like a direct composite veneer, but better and more durable aesthetics. And this is Alessandra with a veneer. This was another case. This lady was referred to me for redoing this large anterior composites. But I don't do these large anterior composites anymore. It's too technically demanding, time consuming, and the durability is not good enough for me. And so conventional alternative restorative technique for a case like this would be indirect ceramic crown with probably some elective root canals. And there is nothing wrong with doing ceramic crowns here, but it's an invasive procedure and time-consuming, technical demanding, and many things that could go wrong with the root canals, pulse and core, impression, temporaries. And in any case, the patient doesn't want to do crowns. She said, I've done crowns on my posterior teeth, and these are my last natural teeth. I don't want to do crowns. Fine, it's not a problem for me, because today indirect ceramic is no longer my only alternative to direct composite. I have more options for my patient. And this is a perfect case for edelweiss veneer. So I prep the 4 incisor for minimal invasive veneer preparation, very minimal enamel reduction. Then I bond 4 edelweiss veneer on top. And then Roberta, she goes home the same day with a happy smile. So this is single appointment, minimal invasive, very cost-effective aesthetic dentistry. So these are some of my possible application. And as you can see, these are cases that we all have in the office. The PEG laterals, anterior spacing, worn dentitions, and all you have to do is to replace this name with the name of your patients and call them and offer them this new technique. And this new technique is an opportunity for your patients because now they have more options to choose from, and it's more likely that they will find the best treatment that fits their needs and their expectation and their financial possibilities. So because of this concept of prefabricated laser-sintered composite restoration work well for the anterior teeth, in 2014, Edelweiss introduced occlusion VD. Occlusion VD are prefabricated laser-sintered composite restoration to restore posterior teeth, molars, and bicuspids. So it's the same concept as the anterior veneer, as a new class of direct/indirect restoration that combines the best of both worlds. You have the convenience of a single appointment direct restorative technique, and you have the beauty and strength of a pre-shaped, pre-polished indirect restoration. And occlusion VD are available in different shapes. You have second molar, first molar, second bicuspid, and first bicuspid, and each shape is available in 3 sizes. You have small, medium, and large occlusal veneers. Occlusion VD are fabricated with the same composite technology and laser sintering technology that's used to fabricate the anterior veneers. So it's a heat and pressure cured composite that is laser sintered. And this technology produces a highly static restoration with remarkably improved mechanical and physical properties compared to conventional composite restoration. So it's high superficial hardness, high flexural strength, super high compressive strength. However, the flexural modulus down here, as you can see, is not too high. It's still in the same range as a composite CAD/CAM block. In other words, this restoration is not hard and rigid like ceramic. And this combination of high strength but low flexural modulus is critical for successful restoration with occlusal veneer, especially in heavy grinder and bruxer patients, because produce optimal biomechanics and reduce risk of chipping and fracturing. We know from laboratory research that occlusal veneers fabricated with a hard and rigid ceramic produce much higher stress concentration upon loading than the same occlusal veneer fabricated with a less rigid composite material. And the more rich the material, the higher the stress concentration and the risk of failure, especially in heavy grinder and bruxer patients. But we already knew this from clinical experience because for many, many years, cast gold was the best possible restoration for posterior teeth in parafunctional patients because cast gold is not too hard and not too rigid and produces virtually zero risk of chipping and fracture in grinder patients. And why? Because it's not too hard, not too rigid. And it worked very well. Cast gold worked very well for many years. And then ceramic came. And no one wanted to have cast gold in their mouth anymore because of the aesthetic limitation. But ceramic is very hard and very rigid and produces a high rate of chipping and fracturing, especially in heavy grinder and bruxer patients. So now occlusion VD was introduced, and this restoration has the same aesthetics as ceramic, but also the same biomechanic as cast gold, not too hard, not too rigid, for optimal biofunctioning in heavy grinder and bruxer patients. And the combination of heat and pressure curing and laser sintering produce a very strong restoration and allows to fabricate occlusal veneers very thin for minimal reduction and maximum hard tissue preservation. So this is a new concept for your posterior restoration. This is a minimal invasive single appointment alternative to conventional full coverage restoration for posterior teeth. Because today with contemporary adhesive technology, there's really little indication for the conventional crown prep unless you are restoring a tooth that already had a crown. You don't need aggressive full coverage preparation. You don't need to remove undercuts. So this is a minimal invasive design for your posterior restoration that you can use for large cavity like this case. You can use to replace large amalgams like this case. You can use to replace large anterior composite restorations. Or you can use it for your post-endodontic restoration, single appointment post-endodontic restoration on molars and bicuspids. But you can use occlusion VD also to restore the full arch in patients that needs to raise the vertical dimension, like this deep bite patient with severely worn lower anteriors, where I use occlusion VD to restore posterior teeth at an increased vertical dimension, and then edelweiss veneer to restore the worn lower anteriors. And for this patient, I had the laboratory fabricating a bite at the new vertical dimension. So the patient has been wearing this bite for about 1 month until he was fully accommodated to the new vertical dimension. And now I'm ready to restore the new vertical dimension in a single appointment with occlusion VD. And for this patient, I use a semi-direct technique for application. The semi-direct technique, you prepare occlusion VD in advance on the model and realign them at the new vertical dimension. So now when you go to the mouth, it's even easier and faster. Just click, click, click all the occlusion VD. And now that the occlusion VD have been bonded to posterior teeth and the vertical dimension has been raised, now I have all the space to restore the lower dentition with edelweiss veneers with no prep. And these are edelweiss veneer bonded to the lower anterior front canine, 2 canine. So this is the patient before and after with occlusion VD on posterior and edelweiss veneers on lower anteriors. Patient is very happy with the aesthetic and functional outcome, but now he asked me to do something for his upper incisor because he's not too happy with the shape and the size. So we made 4 edelweiss veneer on the 4 incisors, and I think that's it. There's nothing more I can do for this guy. But anyway, patients like this that need to increase the vertical dimension are not uncommon these days, because these days people are retaining their natural teeth for a lifetime. But over the lifetime, teeth wear. Sometimes it's physiological wear, sometimes it's accelerated wear, like in parafunctional patient. And the worn dentition needs to be restored, but the conventional restorative technique with laboratory fabricated restoration, indirect technique, is very invasive and very complicated. It's aggressive tooth preparation, multiple appointment, several clinical steps, technically demanding restoration with limited margins of occlusal adjustments, no possible intraoral repair. If something goes wrong, you have to redo the restoration. So it's a technically demanding and invasive dentistry, and because of this, many of these patients are not restored. Now, occlusion VD introduced an alternative treatment options for this patient. This is significantly less invasive, less time-consuming in a single appointment with limited number of clinical steps, and less technically demanding restoration that can be conveniently occlusally adjusted with composite instrument and repolished to the original shine, and if something goes wrong, allows intraoral repair. So now every dentist, even if it's not a prosthodontist, can restore this patient in a predictable and timely manner. And this is the direction where contemporary restorative dentistry is going. Advancement in composite technology and easier and more predictable adhesive system have favored the introduction of new restorative techniques like occlusion VD that are less invasive, less complicated, and less time consuming. And if this concept works for adult restoration, why not also for children's, for pediatric restorations? Also because the currently available options for pediatric restoration have significant limitations. And now, if it's a small restoration, you can do it well with a direct composite and self-etching system. It's very minimal invasive, it's quick, good clinical performance. But it's not uncommon for restoration in the pediatric dentition to be large or very large because of the small size of the teeth, because of the rapid progression of decay in the pediatric dentitions. So options are available for pediatric crowns like stainless steel crowns or zirconia prefabricated crowns. But there is not a single crown that has natural aesthetics, that provides minimal invasive tooth preparation, which is very important for teeth that have large pulp chamber and prominent pulp horn and high risk of pulp exposure. And also a crown that provides easy handling for the dentist because this patient do not allow ideal working condition. They often have limited compliance of the dental chair, do not always allow ideal field working conditions. So because of this, in 2018, Edelweiss introduced pediatric crowns. Edelweiss pediatric crowns are prefabricated laser sintered composite crowns for the pediatric dentition. So now also primary teeth can be restored with a highly aesthetic single appointment minimal invasive restoration. Edelweiss pediatric crowns are available in different shapes and size. You have posterior and anterior shape, and each shape is available in 3 sizes. And Edelweiss pediatric crowns are fabricated with the same composite technology and laser sintering technology that's used to fabricate anterior veneers and occlusion VD. And this technology produces a highly aesthetic restoration. This technology produces a highly aesthetic restoration with high fluorescence and highly value to optimally blend with the primary dentition. And the laser sintering produces an enamel-like surface, and anatomy is shaped with occlusal pediatric anatomy and also pediatric crown morphology with narrow gingival neck and wide proximal contact. And the mechanical properties of Edelweiss composite allows to fabricate a pediatric crown with minimal thickness for maximum tissue preservation. And cuspal morphology is designed to protect prominent pulp horns from pulp exposure. Edelweiss composite crowns have a abrasion coefficient that's very similar to a natural dentition, so they are not abrasive against the opposing dentition. And the laser sintering produces a smooth and glossy surface that is highly plaque resistant, prevents plaque accumulation, which is very important for restoration that many times do not allow optimal finishing and polishing. And the addition of zinc oxide to the composite composition improves antibacterial activity. But most of all, these are composite crowns, so they can conveniently bond it to the tooth with either self-etching and composite resin or resin-modified glass ionomer. And so you don't have the risk of dislodgement, which is a major complication with many of the currently available pediatric crowns. So this was a major breakthrough in pediatric dentistry. And now also primary teeth can be restored with highly aesthetic, minimal invasive, single appointment restorations. And this was the latest addition to the Edelweiss system. Now this is a complete system that has both anterior, posterior, and pediatric restoration. These are all laser prefabricated laser sinter composite restoration. This system introduced an innovative technique. The composite resin technology is very innovative, and also the concept of prefabricated restoration is very innovative. And with this presentation, I want to share with you my 10 years of experience with edelweiss veneers and edelweiss restoration. And what I've learned from this experience is that, number one, aesthetic dentistry doesn't have to be technically demanding and time-consuming. You can produce beautiful restoration with a technique that is significantly less technically demanding, time-consuming, less possible complication, and less expensive. And the other thing that I've learned is that now I can treat more patients, including all those patients that I didn't know how to treat, because composite, not durable enough, ceramic, too invasive. So now I can treat more patients, but it's not about treating more patients, it's about treating my patients better, because my patients now, they have more treatment options, and it's more likely that each and every one of them will find a treatment that best fits his needs, expectation, and financial possibilities, because ultimately more options means better care. More options means better care. So this was my takeaway message from you. And with this, I will hand it over to Stefan, who's going to show you the live patient. And there you will see what immediate aesthetic dentistry really means. Thank you. So this is a complete system now that includes anterior, posterior, and pediatric restoration, prefabricated laser sinter composite restoration. This is an innovative system. The composite resin technology is very innovative, and also this concept of prefabricated laser sinter restoration is an innovative concept. Now, I have been using this system for 10 years, and with this presentation, I want to share with you my experience with the edelweiss system. And what I've learned from my experience is, number one, contemporary aesthetic dentistry doesn't have to be technically demanding and time-consuming. You can create highly aesthetic restoration and beautiful smile for the patient with a technique that is significantly less complicated and time-consuming and expensive. And number two, what I've learned is that now I can treat more patients, including all those patients that I didn't know what to do, because direct composite, not durable enough, indirect ceramic, too invasive. So now I can treat more patients, but it's not only about treating more patients, it's also about treating my patients better, because now they have more options. And each and every one of them will have a treatment that best fits his needs, his expectation, and his financial possibilities, because ultimately more options means better care. And this is my takeaway message for you. And with this, I will handle it to Stefan, who's going to show you the live patients, and there you will see what immediate aesthetic dentistry really means. Thank you.
All right. So thanks a lot, Claudio, for your presentation. And it's also my great honor and privilege to welcome all of you to our webinar. My part now is really focusing on the clinical part, and probably I will follow up also on certain things which Claudio mentioned. Actually, we had a little bit troubles with the line, with the connection. So what you missed there, for sure, you will find in the direct presentation, which I will do right now. So I will rush to my chair, and then I will introduce you to the patient, a young lady, very lovely girl. Actually, also her history was really touching my heart because she returned from Syria, from the war. And well, her biggest wish was just, to smile again. And she suffered once from a misalignment, from a fractured front teeth. And well, we could absolutely, support that smile with the treatment which we're going to provide to her. And well, so just follow me and have a look to our patient of tonight. We need a call.
Kannst du mal weg? Ja. Der muss das Screensharing aufhören.
Claudio, can you stop the screen sharing so Benjamin can start the screen sharing?
Okay. Is it?
No, not the camera, the screen sharing.
Okay, the screen sharing. Okay, let me turn the camera on. Stop the screen sharing. Let me find out how I can do it. Okay.
So now I did it. Benjamin, now you can start the screen sharing.
Let me do it. I'll leave the meeting and then I'll come back.
Great. Benji, now it's your part.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Today, we have a young patient with us, and her aim is to overcome the misalignment of her anterior teeth. So, what we can see on the body, respectively, you will see it in her clinical situation when she provides us with a little smile, that actually the alignment of the teeth is a bit irregular, a bit of a pie position with her central. You also notice that there is already a fracture on 11. And well, we will overcome all those different challenges with our direct veneers. Last time we used the CAD/CAM milled veneers. Today we're going to solve the case directly. So in just one session, without impression, without preparation, more or less, there will be just minimal adjustments, and then we're gonna place veneers from premolar to premolar, and at the end, of course, that will provide her with a beautiful and bright smile within about 2 hours. In one session. The very first thing when we start our session is that we have to go for the right shade selection. Therefore, we have created this shade guide, which consists of our dentin course. At the same time, you can see the enamel shell, which represents and mimics our veneer. So, what I'm doing at the very beginning, and this is important because we all know teeth are dehydrating, and then, of course, the color changes. So, I'm asking her to open her mouth quickly, implementing mouth guard. And well, now I have a perfect perspective. Now I will just come here with my dentin shades and select the right shade in the cervical third of her anterior teeth. Yeah? And from there I can see that she has a very nice A1. I'm implementing my dentin shell into the veneer. And now I'm checking the combination of both, and I can see that we're gonna have a very beautiful match. Shade selection is followed by the size selection. Therefore, we have that sizing guide, and I'm gonna just implement that sizing guide. This just illustrates to you that you always can double check on a study model which size you need. And of course, we can solve these kind of cases always in 3 ways. We can either do it direct as we provided for today, or we can do it semi-direct, which means we would adjust the veneers on the model and then just seat them, or we can do it indirect in taking impressions and going for the digital way using our CAD/CAM blocks to solve the case and of course fulfill the wish for a beautiful, aligned, bright smile. This is the S-size veneer which we have selected. And before I start to adjust them and individualize them for her situation. I'm going to just quickly check in vivo how it looks. And you can see that the veneer already almost perfectly follows the gingival line, and also in regards of the width and the length, it's properly designed to provide golden proportions with her smile. Now we can proceed with the final adjustment of the veneer. I'm just taking that round diamond and I will just in a low speed mode follow up on the inner surface of the veneer and just finish the margins of the veneers. So we have about 0.2 of a millimeter all along the margins. And the aim is, of course, to have margins which are prepared down to 0. That ensures that we will have no overhangs. The gingival line is our border. And remember, we don't prep those teeth. We might just remove a little bit from one of the centrals because of the butterfly position. So the distal edge will be maybe a bit shortened. I will follow up on that while I'm fulfilling the case. But all we are doing now is really just to go around, and at the same time, we are roughening the veneer from the inside, which gives us, next to adhesive retention, also mechanical retention. And for sure, that will give us great adhesion and no debonding at all over the whole lifespan of such a veneer. Okay. The preparing step of our veneer is followed by bonding. We're using our veneer bond, which is a bond without any alcohol. So it's hydrophobic and it's perfectly formed for our veneer. Remember, these veneers are laser sintered. So a composite always have free radicals, so it's never 100% polymerized. But in our situation, these veneers are totally sintered. So we are using now a bonding which contains also silane, and that provides the best adhesive bridge from those veneers which are completely inert towards the restorative material which acts as a cement. By visual observation, you will recognize that she has that beautiful hollow effect in her incisal edges. And of course, that's also something we would like to mimic. And therefore, we have certain effect shades. The one I'm using to illustrate or mimic that hollow effect is the blue effect. I will just apply it here on the back so you can follow up on it. Little portion. Take my instrument and align the incisal edge with my blue effect in a very thin layer. Okay, and then we light cure. We can also use the effect ice to align the blue effect and just also create a beautiful natural transition from the more transparent to the more chroma part of our restoration, and finally, of course, of the overall result of her teeth. Okay. So this, of course, can be followed up with all the veneers, but now let's focus on the clinical side and prepare the environment for the placement of the veneers. So all I'm using now to clean her teeth is a very fine diamond, a yellow one. And this is really just, to have better access from the bonding towards all the enamel prisms, and that provides us with perfect adhesion. Here we face a big portion of old composite buildup, which fractured over time, and of course discolored. I'm going to remove that. In addition, I'm just using a strip to quickly the areas, also because that's exactly the area where my veneer is going to meet the tooth margin. Well, as you saw, this is really with a very minimal invasive approach. So all her teeth are fully intact, so there is no preparation as we know it from ceramics. It's really just, you know. In the next step, I'm just using those mylar strips to isolate the rest of her teeth from the etching. And now we're gonna etch all her interiors at once. The etchant is placed for 30 seconds before it gets rinsed off, and then we'll start with the bonding procedure. Now we're gonna proceed, as I said, with the bonding procedure, and I'm using my mylar strip, using a dentin enamel bonding. In the next step, I'm exchanging my mylar strip. This is a very good trick to not face any overhangs. So all I'm doing is I'm applying the mylar strip in the opposite way. So as you can see, now I have a perfect field to implement, and of course all the marginal areas are sealed, and the mylar strip follows exactly the gingival line and protects while placement the overhangs, or let's say it doesn't create any overhangs this way. In the next step, I'm using my dentin shade, small portion, I roll it, and apply it into my veneer. You can see it here, applying it. And I will apply the dentin part in the lower area, so in the lower third of my veneer. The transition towards the incisal edge. So plus material, just in a second layer, you see now I have still the space, the incisal edge, and I'm going to use my enamel shade. That will provide me with a lot of translucency towards the incisal edge, and in combination with my blue effect, I'm going to mimic those hollow effects in a very nice way. Okay. Then I'm having my veneer here on my instrument, inserting the veneer now. Just remove the instrument, and now I can, you know, adjust it towards my gingival line, and you can perfectly follow up how the margin is sealed by the veneer itself, and that my mylar strip creates a perfect border, and make sure that I have no overhangs. And we're following up on the palatine incisal edge. So you'll see
I'm very happy now with the position of my veneer, and I'd like to illustrate you with my mirror that we have a perfect borderline from the veneer towards the gingival line, and all this is guided by the placement of the mylar strip to only spot cure in the incisal area. This way we have tacked on the veneer. So now the veneer is not going out of position anymore, and I have a second chance just to make sure that everything is perfectly covered, and that's the case. We can finally cure. It looks very nice. And this way you could see how easy it is to control the placement. And that's only by using regular things which we already have in our drawer, like mylar strip, etc., just in a different way. And that makes sure that we don't create any failures during placement. Before I proceed towards the next veneer, I'm gonna make use of all the different spaces I have, because now I have access from all sides before I place the next veneer. So all I'm using now is my Soflex disc. Once all the veneers are seated, and of course also in combination with her lips in place, then we can really provide a perfect result. Using a fine strip now, just to smoothen interdental areas. And that's it. You can check yourself how beautifully we have integrated the veneer towards the gingival line. No overhang at all. I can use my instrument wherever I go. See, no bleeding appears at all. And at the same time, you can also see the hollow effect here. Nice translucency, and then we get more chroma over here. Remember, this is freshly placed. It will take about 24 hours until the saturation and the chroma merges with the veneer and the overall piece in her mouth. So that always takes some time. Hydration, we have talked about this during shade selection, and that's of course also the case with final result. Overall, you can observe that the ginger not damaged at all. So with the technique I presented to you using the mylar strip in a loop shape in the opposite way around the tooth, so from the facial side, it will really provide you with control. And in the end, it's an artistic result, but we can all achieve that without being Michelangelo. We are following a protocol which is precise and which will always provide us with the outcome of the case, which I'm just working on right now. Now I'm following up on the incisal edges, and already here in the mirror you can see the transparency of the veneers, the translucency, which is beautiful and provides a very natural result. It's just finishing off the interdental areas also with a Soflex polisher. Okay. Then we can finally check with our PC for nothing. Yeah. Perfect contacts, and of course no overhangs. That's the final thing I'm going to present to you. So just using our instrument and following up here. For this is absolutely perfect. And of course, we're not going to face any problems. And that's all possible due to the fact that we use the technique which I presented to you earlier with our MYANMAR strip. Now, next step is I'm going to remove the guard. And now we slightly open, and already due to the smile she provides us, we can follow up on the lip line. And well, it's already amazing. Just imagine, we have not finally adjusted it. It's already perfect almost. So, as I mentioned at the very beginning, I will just use my disc at the end and double check in regards of the length. So we might open a little bit for me, please. Just remove a bit here. It's fine. It's all good. And that's the beauty if we treat cases like this directly, because imagine the technician mostly never have the opportunity to view the lips and of course the artists, which are our teeth and restoration which we provided. And it's quite cool. So finally we're gonna check the bite also. Double check where we have too much contact point. And in the end we're gonna provide to make sure that canine guidance is there. Just look at the gingival line. I mean, we just seated 8 veneers. There is no bleeding, no nothing. And that all comes down to the fact that we use a proper technique, a clear protocol, and of course then we can achieve such results. She's providing us with the canine guidance, and we can see edge to edge, same situation on the other side. Canine, all the front teeth are not in stress, and of course that's important for the functional aspects. Yeah, probably at the end of the day, this is the biggest gift a patient can provide us for what we did. It took us more or less 2 hours to overcome all those misalignment. It's always a challenge, but at the end of the day, when we see a patient smiling like her and almost crying, there's nothing better, you know, which we can provide to create an impact in someone else's life with what we are doing.
So, okay. Well, this clinical presentation should give you, of course, an overview, step-by-step technique, tricks, how to, not face any problems at all. Of course, there's hundreds of things which you can tell, doing these cases when we do them thousands of times. It's always different, of course, with each single individual patient. Each case turns out different, so still very individual. Now, in this case, we didn't touch the surface of the veneers because it was just perfect as it was. But of course, due to the laser sintering, there's no restrictions. You can, just do nice surface contouring, certain, morphology to follow up if you want, and especially if you do just one single tooth or only 2 centrals or 2 laterals, and you want to mimic the neighboring teeth. So you're really free to, handle those veneers from all sides. The MYANMAR strip technique, which you have seen in the video where we just take it from the other side, so from the facial side, is very useful. So now in this case, of course, it was simple because the contacts of the patient were great, but otherwise to fixate these MYANMAR strips, a very good thing is to use wedgets. I don't know if you know those rubber wedgets. They are available from company Hygienic. This is where I am ordering it. And of course, with this, we can really stabilize them so they are not moving out of the way. But it's just a trick, you know. I can do it also without those mylar strips. And the same is true for Claudio and many other KOLs. But climbing up the stairs, getting control, getting, you know, absolutely sure about what you're doing. And this is probably really the most important thing, that you are in charge and that you are controlling everything what you're doing. This is just the beginning now of a series of webinars which we are having in front of us. Of course, we are all living in challenging times due to the pandemic. We cannot move normally. We are traveling around the world and we're giving lectures and courses and live shows in different countries of this world. However, now it's more based into the net. And as I mentioned, this is just the beginning. Today we focused on the veneers. Of course, Claudio gave you also sight seeing in towards the whole occlusions, but also the pediatric crowns. But of course, all this is a topic on its own, especially when it comes to the occlusion, to vertical dimension, raising bites, really changing them from class 3 to class 1 without any surgery, without any preparation. So I think there is really, really great things we can share from our clinical experience with you in all those webinars which are coming up. Of course, we're going to announce them, and also we will have technicians with us, because especially when we do vertical dimensions, so changing bites and of course doing full mouth rehabilitations. So the technician is also part of the whole team, and mainly those adjustments take place in the lab. But again, also there we have two ways, either with the prefabricated occlusions and veneers to reline them, as you have seen it with Claudio, or going for the digital way. This is also now something which we haven't covered today, which is our latest development, the CAD/CAM blocks, so fully sintered blocks, which of course you can use for crowns, bridges, veneers, for everything, but of course then designed by the technician, digital, and then milled, and of course individually fitting already to your restorations. Today, what you have seen is now that we have something prefabricated, but we very much individualize it, and it's almost like a direct casting from a restoration prefabricated towards the natural teeth using high-field composite. And again, that creates a monoblock overall with our teeth. And for that reason, we are very successful in regards of the long-term follow-up with all those cases. So over those last 10 to 12 years, we have documented thousands of cases. And of course, Claudio and all the other colleagues all around the world, they document, and we are coming up with more and more things, but we are really driven clinically. So the whole system and what we have also with the posting core, and we combine this with fibers. We are doing bridges with fibers, combining them with the occlusions. Also, this will be part of our upcoming webinars, and we are always trying to really give you the theoretical part, but then also focusing also on the clinical and inviting you to our clinical chairs and to just share the techniques which we have progressed and developed over the years to fulfill the demands and wishes of our patients. So yeah, I hope that this was useful for you. And of course, I hope to see you all again in a next show. Today, I was really, it was just amazing when I heard the numbers of colleagues who attend. So we are far above 1,000 people who attend tonight to this webinar. It's really unbelievable to me. And again, really, we enjoyed. And of course, Claudio and myself, we are now ready for questions. So just apply them in our chat, and we're gonna follow up together with Nico, who will coordinate the whole session now. Okay, good, Nico. I will hand over to you now, and then Claudia and myself, we try to explain everything to you. Once I think I have almost forgotten is the colleague next to me. This is Dr. Sakete. He is the clinical director at the Edelweiss Smile Center in Austria, so the clinic here. As you have noticed, I spent also a lot of time now in Cape Town, because it was always my wish to practice there. And we have a Smile Center also there. So that's also great. So Frederick took over here. And so there's a big team of clinicians ready to support and answer your questions.
Perfect. Thanks to all guys and of course for the participants to be here. We've got one open question, Stefan. I guess it belongs to the video. Is 1-1 was overlapped on 1-2? Was the tooth reduction done before placing the veneer?
All right. So actually we had this butterfly position. On the one side, on tooth 11, exactly, on the distal, we had the fracture. So of course, nothing had to be removed there. And on the other side, only slightly. So this is really just slightly because, as you have noticed with the final result, I haven't taken the butterfly position completely away from her. So I always try to still keep, even we are really taking them into a perfect position, but still there is a slight butterfly position, and that could then easily be followed up with the laterals. So there we, of course, became a bit bigger because they were inclined. And then again with the canines, it was easy because they were in line. So that's, something which, of course, you see it when you especially do things direct, which I believe is a big advantage, or let's say, especially now in our digital times where we always have those digital smile designs, etc. But this is always 2D on our screens. But when we do 3D, then it's really what we see and what's going on. And this is mostly what, let's say, photo or camera or digital illustration cannot provide to the patient. So this is really by experience, and of course the beauty is always in the eye of the beholder. But again, I hadn't had to remove anything in regards of overlapping. So it was really just, with the yellow diamond, just slightly cleaning the teeth on the top, and and then just etching, bonding. So most of those cases are, as you have seen also with Claudio, either non-prep or just really cleaning the teeth. Of course, if they're out of alignment, then sometimes, of course, but again, mainly minimally invasive or non-invasive at all. And of course, a big trick is always to have a study model at hand, because it helps you again to select the right size. And when you adjust these veneers, towards the model, so that you are sure you are already facing on the model the entire facial structure of the tooth which you want to restore, then of course the adjustment, the placement in vivo is very, very easy, because of course that veneer can only fit the same way in the mouth as it did already on the model. And that all can be done beforehand, even before the patient comes. You can prepare yourself, so even the veneers can be bonded already, colorized already with effect shade if needed. It's not that we do this all the time, it really depends on the case. But then you can just step straight into it. And again, as I said, everything turns very individual, even though we have this prefabricated situation, but no one walks out with the same result as the one which was there previously. And if you look at Nico, I always love to mention that, because he's even on one of our patient flyers, and he's he was with us from start, so more than 10 years. And since that moment, he has his veneers and even also occlusions, and we had to raise his bite. And so we have many living examples around us. And again, so that was just my answer or question, to which was raised from one of the colleagues. If there's more questions, I'm ready to go.
I've got another question. Is it not necessary to insert retraction cords in this case?
Okay, so especially now with that young lady, you have seen that her gingiva was in really beautifully healthy conditions. This is anyways, when we have patients, this is for all of us, that we always take care of the hygiene part so that we have a healthy gingival line, etc. With that technique which I have provided you with the mylar strip, so that mylar strip really, is like a sealer from in between the gingival line and the tooth itself. So in such a case, of course, that's isolated. It's like a rubber dam, but really, with the mylar strip, I can just look through it. It is in my way. And of course, that provides me with a marginal, contact or integration, which is just amazing. Of course, there's other situations where we do not use a mylar strip like this. I mean, as I said, there's many ways you can use those veneers, and whatever works best in your hands. But I came up with that mylar strip technique because I have seen colleagues facing issues with probably overhangs, and sooner or later you come up with a simple thing which you have in your drawer, and you do it once and twice and 3 times, and well, you see, it's just so easy. And I mean, you have seen, I mean, this was all taken live, and it's not any fake or anything. This is just as it wouldn't have been touched at all. So in some cases, of course, mylar strip, or let's say retraction cord, is advised, but mainly because the gingival line is our border, and moisturing is not an issue, especially in that area when we have healthy gingival situation. Then of course no retraction cord is needed.
Perfect. So we have, thanks, Stefan. Maybe Claudia can answer the next question, that he's as well a part of it. How to prevent overhangs?
Just the same thing that you were doing a classified composite. Just possibly use magnification and finish the margins. If you have an overhang, you can always finish it like you would do with an overhang on your class 5 composite. Softflex disc or whatever composite instrument works for you. So if you use a proper technique with the mylar strip or whatever, and sit the veneer one by one carefully and watch at your margins, you should not have overhangs. But if you have an overhang, no big deal. Take your Softflex disc and finish it to 0.
Yeah, the additional question from the person was as well, also, how do we finishing the polishing of the veneers?
Well, you polish only the margins. You don't have to do any polishing on the buccal surface because it was already made for you. You cannot make it any more shiny or glossy. But the margins, you probably have some composite there. So you finish it like you would do with your class 5 composite. Whatever instrument you like to use, Softflex disc, finishing burr, silicone instruments, what you have in your office and what works in your hands.
Good. Another question was, what if the one of the incisor is more vestibular aligned than the other one? We correct that with using more preparation of the tooth?
It's for me, well,
yeah.
It's very case dependent. It's very case dependent. Depends on how buccal it is. If it's too buccal, then this is a case where you have to reduce. You're gonna reduce less than what you would do with ceramic because the veneer is thinner. But if it's too buccal, you either do ortho or you reduce it. But maybe it's the other incisor that's too lingual, and then in that case you just move the lingual incisor more buccal. So it's case depending.
Okay, then let's go to Stefan. We've got another question. Also, voids are inevitable in the cementing composite. Any tips to avoid the same?
Okay, that's what I also illustrated during the step-by-step. What you have seen is that I'm always applying a stripe of my composite onto my fingertip. And then I roll it. So I have a ball, a little ball. First of all, of course, by rolling it, I warm it up. So the composite gets more smoother. Remember, this composite is filled 83% with glass. So it's very highly filled, and therefore, in regards of the consistency, a little bit stiffer, which of course gives us great performance in regards of strength, flexibility, etc. But now, when I roll it, of course, I have a ball, and if I drop that ball into my veneer and I press it, then of course, the ball is like squeezed into the veneer shell. It has the same shape, and then actually there is no possibility for a void. So, but of course, if you stripe it, you know, with your tip into the veneer, then of course you have maybe 2-3 sausages in there, and they have undercuts, and then you have voids. But as I said, roll a ball, then adapt it into your veneer, press it flat, and you will be fine. And again, also just wipe your fingertips before with an alcohol wipe. I use nitrile gloves for that, and you will have no voids at all.
So far, no question. Oh, now here's another one. How to select size for the asthma cases?
Well, the asthma cases, it's always a question of the patient. Will he really want to close it completely, or should we still leave it? How I do it is, of course, that I prepare first. Now, remember the technique I showed you with the mylar strip in a loop shape where I placed it from the gingival side, so from the facial side. So now I do it from the palatinal side, the classical way, so that I have that open window. So I also shift it in between the papilla and the tooth. And then, first of all, I bend my mylar strip towards the other incisal, and then I just line it either with the flow or also with my high field. I just, you know, build up that corner. So first of all, I just, you know, create the frame very much like you know it if you would have done a silicon key or something like this, which is presented mainly with direct techniques. So then, of course, you have already established the palatinal walls, yeah, and then, of course, it becomes easy, yeah. And before you place the veneers, you can still make sure that you have the perfect midline and that you know, the papilla line is nice. But that's how I do it. I mean, there is many ways also how we have described this. There is also clinical step-by-steps and everything available. This will also be something we're going to follow up on different cases, like you just mentioned, the asthma cases, or especially when there is missing laterals, where we have to maybe change canines into laterals and then adjust premolars to canines. So also in regards of symmetry and smile design, this will also be a topic. Yeah, it's a big topic, you know, aesthetic dentistry, and there's so many things we can exchange with each other. But I do it very much like I did it in the classical direct technique, and then just face it from the front.
Good. One question was as well, is it necessary to wear nitrile gloves or latex is okay too?
Latex is okay too. We just, you know, it was just to, when you touch the composite, because you touch, you know, patient, instrument, etc., then you are sure, you know, the gloves are not contaminated, they are clean, you know. When you work with loops, you know exactly, you know, what you can find on a composite when you touch it. So that's just more main importance to have clean gloves. And that doesn't matter if it's nitrile or latex gloves.
Good. And I've got another question for Claudio. Claudio, I just send it over to you over WhatsApp because it's quite not easy for me to read on a small chat.
Okay, can you preheat composite for cementation? Yes, you can, but you don't need to do it. I mean, it's if you roll, I mean, I do the same thing that Stefan does. I roll it with my fingers and you immediately feel it softer. That's all you want. You don't want it too soft, because if the composite is a little thick, it holds the veneer in position. So, and makes finishing the margins easier. So you don't really want it like a flowable composite. So my question is, no, I do not preheat. And second question, what if you want to place the veneer so vestibular that there is a wide space between two? Okay, I know this question. They're always the same questions. The question is, how about if you move the tooth buccal with the veneer? You're gonna have a thicker layer of composite on that tooth. Does it make a difference? No, in my experience, it doesn't make any difference in color, doesn't make any difference in strength, doesn't make any difference in durability. It might make a little different in phonetics, some patients for a few hours, some patients for a few days, but it's something that, in my experience, I do it. I have been doing it also with ceramic veneer for many years, so that's not an issue. A thicker layer of composite on one veneer, a thinner layer on the other veneer next to it, doesn't make any difference.
Perfect.
That was the difference. That was a question. Unless there is a third question that I missed. Do you place wider layer of the composite for cementation and polish, or there is? I'm not sure about. Oh no, I already answered. Okay, that's it. That was the second question, was about the thickness of the composite. Again, if this is the first time that you use this technique and you're moving your tooth to buckle, yes, you can do it in 2 steps. You can build it up with composite, light cure it, and then sit the veneer on top. Or you can do it in a single step. Just put a thick layer of composite, sit the veneer, and when you see the position is right, light cure it. Either 1 step or 2 steps. I think that was the last question, I hope.
I will find it. What if the patient doesn't like the final look? Is there a way to safely remove the veneers?
It happened me once. And yes, you remove it like it was a direct composite. It's easier to remove it than, I have to say that it happened to me once also with ceramic veneers. And with ceramic veneers, believe me, it's a nightmare because the material is as hard as enamel. So it's very difficult to tell when you hit enamel. Now with edelweiss veneer, is a different consistency under your rotative instrument. So hopefully you don't have to do it, but if you have to do it, it's not too difficult. That was how about your question, Stefan? Never happened to you?
Never happened to me so far, but I would have answered it the same way as you did. And well, you know, one thing maybe we can also mention, especially when you consult your patient. I mean, you have your veneers probably there already, or you just, you know, order them for trial fit. Let's say you have the sizing guide, so you already know. What you can always do is like a direct mock-up, a quick one, which means you can pre-fill the veneers without, you know, adjusting them or bonding them. You just reline them with composite and you place them on the patient teeth, so that, you know, they already experience before you even start what's going to happen. Actually, that's many times you have a patient coming in for something else, but you see there is misalignment, there's maybe a divided central or whatever. Then you just grab a veneer from your box, you fill it with the dentin shade or whatever, you know, the color is A1, A2, whatever, and you just place it and you pass them the mirror, and they notice immediately how it comes that this looks already almost finished, you know, from their perspective. And well, so you can always, you know, kind of place them and already get a certain idea about how it could look like, you see. And of course, the patient already then can see themselves. It's much better than if they see themselves on a picture, which is always perfect. But if they have it live, you know, it's very different. And then, of course, you know, when you are a beginner, it's always also wise, as I said, take an alternate impression, make a model and isolate the model. You can, you know, pre-reline those veneers on the model. And you can take it off the model, you clean them, and now you have like veneers made from the lab. They are fitting already to your case. You know, this is just because once they are there, then of course you are free to treat them. You can adjust them. If it's a little bit out of angulation, then you just take the corner or the edge, which is you know, not right, and you again arrange it balanced or in a symmetry. So that's just, you know, little advices to enter. And of course, the clinical experience is the best what you can get. Of course, we try now via webinars to get that across via videos and via those live sessions. But at the same time, of course, you can always contact us directly. Either you have the opportunity to come here or to Cape Town or wherever, to Italy or to Belgium or wherever. You know, we have KOLs all over the world, doesn't matter, in India, in the US, wherever you are based. And it can always be arranged to hospital in another place. So, because once, you know, you step into this technique, and I would say the clinics here and also in Cape Town, they are 90% dedicated to these kind of cases, either veneers, vertical dimensions. And of course, we always use those materials. And yeah, we are just ready for that know-how transfer, and we'd like to get as much across to you guys as possible. But at the end of the day, I believe, you know, once you are starting to fly with that system, you will just glide. It's really fun and fascinating to do these kind of cases. Like Claudio said, the feeling for the patient to get up, you know, from the chair and look in the mirror and getting this result immediately. This is just like you have seen in the video also. That girl was just, well, we started the case, she was a young woman, and now she's a lady, a young one. You know, we really turned her face in a beautiful young woman. And yeah, so the childness is gone, and that was very important for her. So we do a lot for the personality, let's say, for the confidence of those patients. And as I mentioned, you can forecast, you can really step by step get yourself into the position that you can create those cases the same way as we all do them.
Perfect. Thanks, Stefan. The last question I can answer, and that's my input, let's say, in regards of training, online video training, in regards of webinars, hands-on webinar. Of course, we are all waiting to finish the pandemic, that we can meet each other in person. That's important thing to, as Stefan mentioned, to share the knowledge, what we all have, our experience. But we are working on a new webinar concept to make a hands-on workshop in a webinar. Hopefully in the next couple of months, we have finished those concepts, and then we will send it out to all our partners around the world. But for now, we have got a next upcoming webinar on the 27th of May. It's the same time, 6:15, with Stefan, myself, and Dr. Claudia Novelli. No, it's Dr. Daisy Gamudli, and it's about posting core and CAD/CAM blocks. And then hopefully we can inform you in regards of the upcoming webinars. The next thing is, in the next 2 days, you will get an email from us in regards of the recorded webinar and in regards of the additional webinar in the end of May. So far, if you don't have any questions right now, we can finish our webinar, our first Edelweiss online webinar.
Oh,
more or less in time, 4 minutes to 8, so quite okay. Just a next thing, because of the questions in regards of that, when you get the email the next 2 days, there is my email address as well. If you need further information, further videos, or step-by-step clinical cases, step-by-step procedure, just send over those kind of questions. I will contact Stefan, Claudia, or all our, even Frederick, and come back with you with advice and all other information. Then so far, no questions as I can see. So guys, thanks a lot for the time. Thank you. Have a nice evening and see you next time.
Thank you.
Grazie. Ciao.
Look at this, Samuel. Thank you. It's amazing. So,
Ciao. Super.
jetzt ist offen.
Jetzt das Video und so.